y'all, this is Amanda with She's a Mad Gardener, and I am out on the front porch today. You might remember about a week ago I filmed outside in the snow in my little Red Riding Hood jacket, and we had gotten down to -1, and it is about a week later, and it's almost 80 degrees outside today. Yeah, so 80 degrees in the middle of the winter, that is fairly normal for my area. The -1 degrees in the middle of the winter, not so much. But anyway, I'm out on the front porch today, enjoying the nice weather. Can't be out on the back because we have a lot of wind today. It's pretty loud, so you might hear some construction guys behind me, that kind of stuff, just because I am in a small suburban neighborhood, kind of like cookie cutter, you know, all the matching houses. So I live there, and so we're still in a construction area. But today, I want to talk to you guys about 5 awesome tips for growing zinnias. Zinnias are one of my favorite blooms to grow. They're easy, they're bright, they're prolific, they're colorful. They bring so much joy, and so I really love growing them. So I wanted to go through just 5 easy tips to make growing zinnias even better than it already is. Now, before I get started, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you haven't hit that little notification bell to make sure that you're aware of every video that I upload, make sure you do that right now. Yeah, I'll wait. Okay, my #1 tip for growing zinnias is to start them from seed. You absolutely can purchase them at your local nurseries and such, but they are so easy to start from seed that it is a complete waste of money. Do not spend your money on buying full-grown plants of zinnias. You can start it yourself. So you can start your seeds indoors. Typically zinnias like for the earth to be about 75 degrees, right around there, before the seeds are all happy. So you can start indoors if you want to get a jump on the season, or you can wait till your temperature warms up, your soil warms up, and you can sow directly outside. I do both. I have a lot of border zinnias that I like to grow, and I typically start those inside earlier on. They're lower zinnias. And then my zinnias that grow tall and that I use for cut flowers, I typically sow those directly outside. You can typically transplant zinnias outside March to about June in my area. My area is zone 8A. And they'll typically bloom from like May to like November, y'all, a long time. And I did a massive, beautiful design of all what was left of my zinnias in November, and they were just stunning. And really, I kind of just got to the point where I was ready to wrap up my garden for the season, and so I just cut them all back to the ground. So, but yeah, they have a really long growing season, and they're really versatile in that way. Tip #2, plant your zinnias in a good location in your garden. They don't like shade, they want full sun. So make sure you plant them in an area that is gonna get full sun all day. Plant them in the earth and fertilize when you first plant them. They don't need to be fertilized after that. They do plenty fine after that point. Zinnias tend to get a lot of powdery mildew. They do not like their leaves to be wet. So all of mine are watered from below, utilizing a drip system. Now, if you don't have a drip system, just make sure when you're watering them, you're not watering from above. Get down low and put the water down low on that bottom 6 inches underneath the blooms. And that'll help reduce a little bit of that powdery mildew. Now, if your zinnias get powdery mildew, when mine get powdery mildew, I really don't care. I don't grow my zinnias for any type of foliage whatsoever. I cut them and I immediately strip off the foliage, so I don't really care what they look like. And I cut back my zinnias so frequently that it doesn't really stress me out. It doesn't really stress the plant out if it has a lot of powdery mildew, because it every time I cut it back, it establishes new growth and new leaves. So you know, it's kind of up to you. I have found that I will say towards the end of the season, like in October and November, is typically when I see a whole lot more powdery mildew than I do earlier in the year, and I'm sure that's in regards to the heat. But yeah, as I get more towards rainy season in our area, that's when I typically see a whole lot more of the powdery mildew. But I don't even treat it, truthfully, when it happens. However, that's up to you. If you're putting zinnias in a space that's going to be seen by your whole neighborhood and you want them to be beautiful, well then you can treat them for some powdery mildew. I plant all mine in the back for a cutting garden, so I don't really care what they look like except for after I cut them. Number 3, make sure to cut your seedlings back early. Now, that's always a scary term, cutting your seedlings. It's all like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? Well, the reason is because zinnias are a branching plant, meaning basically they're not going to grow just straight up. If they're growing and you cut off a portion right above 2 leaves, and I'll pop up a picture so you can see what I look like, you cut that portion off as they're going up, it's going to branch from 1 to 2 branches at that point. So you're gonna get a lot more wow factor from it than if you just allowed it to start from the very beginning and grow straight up. So it's something to remember, just pinch them back early and check them out. And I pinch mine back typically like around 6 inches. Like I'll cut all the way back then, and I like the branching to start off lower to the ground rather than allowing it to grow tall and then branching out. Then it gets really kind of top heavy. And then talking about top heavy, I typically use some wire, a wire grid that I kind of push into the ground, and the zinnias grow up through it, and then it kind of holds everything in place and keeps it from flopping. You can also put up some different types of netting. You can stake your zinnias, whatever is kind of easiest for you. I grow a whole lot of zinnias, and so I just like these forms that I can just put in different places, and they all kind of lean up against one another. Works out really, really well. Sometimes I'll get a random stray zinnia seed that's kind of floated through a river or something, and it's gone to a different area, and then I just might use like one of my green stakes, one of my tomato stakes or something to hold it upright, and that's not a problem either. Tip number 4, cut your flowers often. Cut them all the time. Bring them inside, enjoy them. It's really hard to say something like that. You get this big, beautiful bloom, and I'm like, cut it off, bring it in. But the more you cut on zinnias, the more prolific they're gonna be. Every time you make a cut, it's gonna encourage 2 more to show up. So make sure you cut them frequently, bring them in, enjoy them. They'll typically last about 10 days in a vase. Make sure you change out the water, that's always super important. But yeah, you can get a lot of life from zinnias, but pretty much the worst thing you can do for a zinnia is just to allow it to grow and not trim it back. If you are wanting to grow zinnias for cut flowers, you need to cut them. Cut them, bring them in, enjoy them, and more flowers will grow quickly in their place. A lot of zinnias have a 35-day turnaround. I mean, literally seed in the ground, 35 days later, boom, you have flowers. Amazing. Some of them are up to 60 days, but even at 60 days, that's almost instant gratification for most gardeners, because it's really hard. Like, I love delphiniums, but gosh, it takes them 20 days even to germinate. I mean, so they hurt just a long drawn out flower, but zinnias, instant gratification. And number 5, one of my very favorite tips, is save your seeds at the end of the season. Allow the zinnias, the last round of zinnias, just allow them to dry on the stem outside, and as they become brown and brittle, the petals very carefully pull away and we'll have a little zinnia seed at the end. So you can actually save your zinnia seeds and then utilize them for the next year. Now, I have been lucky in my zones when we have mild winters, you know, not like this winter, but when we have mild winters, a lot of my zinnias will reseed themselves. That's not going to be the case this year. So I have multiple zinnias that I pulled from last year and saved the seeds. However, you can purchase zinnias from a number of places. I like purchasing from Johnny's. I'll purchase from some big box locations. I like Botanical Interest. I like Park Seeds. All of them have fabulous zinnias that you can purchase. Very unique, soft, beautiful ones. Tons of gorgeous, bright, colorful over-the-top ones. Just a wide variety for you to choose from. But you can save those zinnias at the end, zinnia seeds at the end. I just save mine and I put them in a little plastic bag. I typically leave the plastic bag open a little bit But once they're dried out, put them in my plastic bag, write the name on them, and I'm good to go for the next year. Okay, a couple bonus things about zinnias. Pollinators love them. I love standing outside my zinnia garden and watching the butterflies just jump from place to place, and to see the big old fat bumblebees burying their faces in there, and they absolutely love zinnias. So it brings a lot of joy to a garden. I love zinnias for a children's garden because, first of all, that instant gratification, they grow very quickly, the wide variety of bold colors, but most importantly, the number of pollinators that come to them. That's fabulous for kids to be able to watch these bumblebees up close, or observe monarch butterflies, or anything along those lines. So fabulous as a pollinator garden bloom. So zinnias actually come in a wide variety of kind of shapes and textures. They're all typically round, of course, the bloom is, but they can come in like a daisy type form. They can come in like a double bloom where one layer of petals and then a second layer of petals blooms out. They can come in a ball form where the petals kind of round themselves out. There's so many. They even kind of look like a dahlia because so many petals can bloom on those ball forms, which is really great. They can come really large. Like I've had zinnias like up to like 4.5, 5 inches across, and then I've had zinnias that are really tiny and sweet and small, which is fabulous. I love zinnias for how they mature through their season, or through their growing season. So a lot of them will bloom one color and then fade to a different color, which is really neat. This one border zinnia, I grew this last year. It was a coral low growing zinnia, approximately 12 inches high. It started off like bold, deep, almost a reddish coral, and then faded through a coral and a blush, and then finally to a white. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing. So yeah, definitely beautiful blooms, but yeah, you can get them to look like a lot of different things. I like them because they're large, bold statement flowers that are easy for me to grow. You know, I love growing dahlias, but dahlias are a little bit more high maintenance and a little bit more expensive. But when I grow zinnias, I get a lot of them for a small amount of money and for a little bit of care. It just doesn't take very much to get them going. So they're fabulous in cut arrangements as a big, bold, just statement bloom in the designs. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this sweet little video about zinnias. All of these pictures that I'm posting are my zinnias from my garden, and I'm also going to post after this, I'm going to post some photos of some new zinnias that I'm going to be growing this year, and see if you are growing any of those same zinnias. And if you have a favorite zinnia, I would love to know what it is. If you have one that is just a showstopper, list it below in the comments, because I would love to know what it is. I'd like to know whatever your secret is for growing it. So if you have zinnia secrets and that just make your zinnias more prolific than ever, drop those below. Let me know, share them with the group, because we'd love to do that. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell and leave me a comment. I love to hear from y'all, even if it's just a few hearts. I'd love to hear from you guys. Every comment, every subscription, every hit of that notification bell helps keep my channel going, and I would really appreciate any of y'all's support along the way. As always, she's a mad gardener or a decorator or anything else that she wants to be. Thank you so much.